Hi, I'm Dory Wilson. Welcome to another episode of Data Renegades.
Hi, I'm CL, CEO and founder of Recce and your host of Data Renegades. Today, our guest is Scott Breitenother. Scott is the co-founder of KiloCode, a fast-growing open-source AI coding agent. But before Kilo, he built Brooklyn Data Company from his apartment into a 100-person consultancy before successful exit, and founded Locally Optimistic, one of the go-to community for data ML leaders. Hello, Scott. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, that was a great introduction. I feel like you're like a good confidence boost. I should start every day with a CL introduction. I'm like, I think I should record that. I'm feeling great.
You'll definitely get a recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone should start with a hype man. CL is awesome in that way.
He's very good at that. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I remember first met Scott in one of the DBD conference, like maybe 2023. And then before I moved to SF, and then he was like, where's the Wi-Fi password? And then we kept running into each other at conferences.
I'm glad you remember that. I do remember randomly meeting you. I didn't know it was for an embarrassing "Where's the Wi-Fi password?" question, because I think
It's right
your
on the
answer
badge.
was probably right on the badge, wasn't it? Thank you. Yeah,
That is
where
right.
it always is.
All right, cool. So Scott, can you like take us back to the beginning? Like, I know you're not doing data nowadays, but like you started your career doing a lot of data stuff and then even build this kind of really big consultancy, right? So what problem kind of first pull you into the data space?
Man, I mean, I just like I've found I've always been just like analytical. I mean, but I think the big transition I had was started my career as a management consultant. So just like crushing Excel and PowerPoint. I don't like to brag about many things, but at that point I was spectacular at Excel and PowerPoint. Now I'm just like at best okay. But it was really, what I loved was the transition from that, I guess, that analytical, semi-technical background I had in the management consulting world to jumping into my first kind of data job at Casper, the direct-to-consumer mattress company. And so, like, I had a first assignment. It was to like understand the customer base at Casper, and it was just like using that I guess that analytical foundation that I had honed in the mean streets of Excel, and then bringing that to kind of the modern data stack, SQL. I mean that was just you know that was that just such an amazing inflection point, and just got me hooked.
All right, so from consultancy and then managing consultancy and then working for Casper and then like putting that skill into like a more, I guess, engineered practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, a scalable technology. I mean, I still think, again, I think Excel is awesome, and it's like the
Will
first
never
programming
die.
language. It never die. And it's just like, you might not be writing formulas directly anymore. You might be using AI to do 90% of it. Like that's a whole nother thing. But like, I mean, it's a very logical kind of semi-structured programming language. And I think it's like a really great on-ramp. And some people stop at Excel, and that's totally fine. But I think it's a really great on-ramp to then get to like the more scalable engineering-esque, world where you're using SQL and Python and kind of cloud data warehouses and things like that. It's a bit of a
Yeah.
gateway drug.
Yeah. And like queries in Excel and Google Sheets, once you actually get into SQL, your life is so much easier, I found. But I was never an Excel fangirl. I was always, I have to use this. I know some basic lookups, and that was it.
I mean, maybe we should do a part 2 where Scott just shows Dory the wonderful sides of Excel. And
Test your back
I
up.
just think you haven't seen its finer sides. I think you'd fall in love. It's like the Paris of Microsoft Office. It's just you can't not fall in love.
Yeah, but is there a lot competing with it in Microsoft Office?
You know what? I'm not gonna put a
Strike a
horse
punch.
in this race. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not making any enemies in the Microsoft Office team.
Like prior to Excel, it was really like the spreadsheet concept from like Lotus and then also going back to I think something associated with like hypercard, and then so that was really what you say, gateway drug, as in like a way for people to represent logic and transformation. And basically, if you decompose that, it is still a DAG, right? And then if you get like a range, it is like
See?
applying DAG to a bunch of
Yeah.
data.
I don't know if you're just saying that to humor me, but I'll agree 100%. I think I totally agree. It's the original DAG.
Yeah, I had a chance to work on open source project called EtherCalc, which is basically like a like very small online collaborative Excel thing, and it was a super fun thing to work on. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so I guess from like that's maybe talk a little bit about still the data stack for a bit. I know you're not like in data anymore. That we will get into that, but like I guess from your perspective, what's actually broken in the modern data stack?
I mean, I think I wouldn't say broken, but I think, there needs to be more change. Like, I feel like the modern data stack is kind of like, I don't know, stagnated in the last few years. Like, I think you've seen more features in all the product, but I don't know. And maybe this is just the nostalgia of the early years when stuff was just really broken. And so there was no way to go but up. But the products have just all gotten quite complex and more feature rich without necessarily feeling like I haven't had that magical moment in data in a while.
Mhm.
And I think, now that I'm kind of more on the AI side, I feel like every day is magic. And again, and because I definitely, and I think, yes, AI is genuinely magic, and kind of, seeing the speed at the kind of engineers at Kilo move using AI is phenomenal. But I do actually think it just isn't just AI is genuinely magic. I think it's just the early days of modern data stack felt magical. It was that unlock, that first time you use DBT, the first time you move from a read replica on Postgres to Redshift. And the first time you move from Redshift and not having to worry about like fixed core sizes and going to Snowflake. It's just like I haven't had that magical moment, and I haven't seen that magical moment in a few years.
Do you think it's, 'cause they have more features and it's really cool. Like one of my favorite tools that's popped up is Hex, which is just basically a souped up, Jupyter notebook in the best
Mm.
way. Do you think it's just we haven't built anything new, or do you think a lot of like the problems are kind of solved in some of these ways?
Yeah, I think it might be that. Like, I could just be the old man. It's like, I remember when I used to, have to walk uphill in the snow both ways to make a dashboard. And now it's just, we've solved 90% of it, and it's just maturing, and maybe that's it. And I do think like Hex is a phenomenal tool. I remember actually when Barry was like just ideating on Hex, in the early days, and it was so funny how hard it was to share and collaborate on Jupyter notebooks. And yeah, I forget what was the package that everybody was using for kind of shared open Jupyter notebook. It just wasn't easy. And
I
then
was like downloading it as PDFs to like share to PMs.
yeah,
Like they couldn't
and then
operate
Hex
GitHub. Like they weren't going to do that.
and then Hex comes out and just makes it magical and seamless, and it's just like Appleifies it. But I also think like even Hex, like I think Hex has found these really cool moments to weave AI into the work, into the experience. But even that, I mean, Hex is in and of itself maturing as a product. And so I think maybe,
Yeah.
Dory, you're absolutely right that we're just in a phase where we're not waking up every single day to see some sort of magical innovation in the data space. And maybe, again, nostalgic people like me just need to accept that, you know, you don't have to walk uphill both ways in the snow anymore.
Yeah. Or you still do, but I think, I don't know, like talking to people and being in the space and being in data infra, it's like, it's not so much the infra and the technical stuff, I think. I mean, there's cost
Mm.
savings. Like you said, there's nothing like groundbreaking necessarily that we've seen yet. Don't,
Mhm.
knock on wood. Um, but how do you interpret the data? How do you work with it? How do you story tell? Like the actual functional use of the
Totally.
data. That is still, I think, difficult and like is where LLMs are exciting, but they hallucinate so much.
There hasn't been an aha
So
moment, and
much.
I think we're
Yeah.
getting closer. Even, and again, I'm putting on my Scott Kilo hat for a moment. Like, just even seeing how the LMs have just gotten better in the last couple months.
Yes.
like Opus 4.5 felt like a breakthrough on the coding side and even kind of on the engineering side. Like does feel like we're starting to get to some sort of inflection point where LLMs can take on messier, more complex, and more autonomous workloads. And who knows, maybe it is time to see the LLMs take on storytelling. I mean, I think you're definitely starting to see LMs help with visualization, building some sort of semantic layer behind the scenes. I think there's this last mile of, like you said, well, storytelling that I think once the LMs get there, it's going to be that's going to be a magical moment.
Yeah. And a scary moment for I think a lot of
Totally.
us who work in data. Yeah.
We
Yeah, but I mean, I think like, we're all, I'd like to think you got to be an optimist in data. Like, it's if you see a lot of things, I think the data team seems the most amount of information about their organization. If you're not an optimist, you're not going to survive very long. And so I'd like to think the field of data is a field of optimists. And so, and I myself feel like in general an optimist. So I don't know. I don't think people are going to be put out of a job by AI. I mean, I think, it sounds cliche. You might be put out of a job by someone who knows AI, because they're more productive and efficient and know how to use the tools. But I think you're not, if you know the tools, you're not going anywhere. Like, but the expectation will be instead of telling one story, you're going to be telling 20, just the productivity expectation is going to go up.
we had
With
an episode with Ben Stencil, and then he's been talking about this, like, maybe this whole data thing is a fad, right? It's like everything is vibesy, and the storytelling is kind of like trying to tell the story, and and then the trend is up-ish, right? So he's been, I guess, putting those thoughts on there. But I guess I'm with you, like more optimistic, and hopefully not just locally, but globally optimistic for like where we're
Mm-hmm.
heading.
Yeah.
I guess like for whatever is happening in the data world, but for given your experience like working with like so many clients and like team, like what do you think is kind of the tool or workflow that kind of quietly serve them that, but if you adopt this thing, that the things are great.
Yeah. I mean, this is maybe non-technical,
I
but
imagine
I
so.
think, having some just asking questions and being okay with asking questions and having humility. Like I think one of the things that I think a lot of people that joined Brooklyn Data early on were potentially surprised was that they didn't have to like sound smart internally. Like it was like okay saying I don't know, and asking other people a question about something. I think in too many organizations, and I realize I probably took this question in a very different direction than you intended, but I'm going with it. I'm committing.
I love it.
I think in so many organizations, you're just kind of forced to act like you know everything, even then you don't. And it just like, I don't think we learn. I don't think we help each other. I don't think it serves us well if we're kind of always put that face on. And so listen, you should ask smart questions. I'm a big fan of, in general, always asking multiple choice questions instead of free text questions.
Hmm.
Instead of like, what is this? It's like, I did some research. Is it this or that? But I think having kind of being honest and open with what you know and don't know, I think, that was, again, this more on the softer side, but I think that served us really, really well at Brooklyn Data and helped us actually learn faster. Is if you're honest of what you do and don't know, it's a lot easier to fill in those gaps.
Get at the so what and like what is the real problem there.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of the meme, that's like the normal curve where at the bottom, the beginner is like saying, I don't know. And the top is like always having the answer. And the other side, when it's like the experienced person is like, I don't know again. Like that is I think the
Yeah,
curve that
the
like I
Jedi,
see with
I
a lot
don't
of
know.
seniority. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the confidence to admit you don't know, which I think is actually a pretty cool moment where you can get there in professionally.
Yeah. How did you build that culture internally? Because that's a difficult thing to build, I think, especially if you're data people, where we want to have the answer.
Yeah, I think it kind of came from necessity, to be honest. Like we a lot of I found a lot of cultural elements at Brooklyn Data just came out of just our origin story. We were remote during COVID. You know, none of us had like most of us hadn't even met in person before. And so the only way you could really kind of work together is to work really loudly and just be honest and transparent. And I don't know what that specific moment was, and maybe it's just kind of, my my unnatural comfort just saying I don't know, that maybe rubbed off on everybody. But I think from an early on, you know, we said, hey, don't ask in DMs, ask in a channel, like get it out there. Like if there's a question, odds are if you don't know, someone else also doesn't know, and we will benefit as an organization. And then I think the kind of the ultimate cherry on top is like, okay, cool, let's document that somewhere. Because I think the other thing is, and I don't think did this well early on at Brooklyn Data, but we got this later on, and then at Kilo we're doing it all the time. Is like Slack is not a enduring, long-lasting documentation center. Like we, in fact, at Kilo expire, messages after 90 days. Like, at Brooklyn Data, we did it at 13 months. But the idea is like, you shouldn't be looking up something in Slack. Slack is for real-time communication. And then when there's something that is worthy of documentation, you should put it in whatever the kind of the central repository of knowledge, At Brooklyn Data, that was Jira. At Kilo, we have a Docusaurus repository site that we have internal access to.
That reminds me of the GitLab handbook, right? It's very handbook first, and then now you're a co-founder.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. So now, to what Ciel was saying is my co-founder at Kilo, Sid Sibrandi, was founded GitLab, and what's kind of very full circle is when Brooklyn Data started, we were remote from day one. So we started in late, I guess August, September of 2018, and the only remote organizations at that time were, I think, or I guess the only vocal remote organizations were GitLab and Buffer. And I think we learned, like, we voraciously consumed all of the, the kind of knowledge and kind of documentation that those two organizations put out. And so learned so much about how to operate as an organization from GitLab. And now getting a chance to partner with Sid every day it's very cool. It's I feel like I guess, long-time listener, first-time caller, constantly with Sid's just like, this is the person I've been reading about and kind of consuming, his philosophy on working. And now I get to partner with him and work with him every day.
Wow, that must feel amazing.
Yeah. How did y'all meet up to start founding?
Yeah, it's funny. We were introduced by a mutual acquaintance or mutual friend, Emily Shario, who everybody knows in the data community. I think she's kind of, a former GitLabber kind of in the data space and I guess co-moderator admin of Locally Optimistic with me, and just right place, right time. Sid was looking for a co-founder, and I was ripe to start my next thing after my mini retirement post selling Brooklyn Data.
Awesome. What, between founding, both of you, are multi-time founders, what is something that you took from the first time into this time that you think has really paid off for you?
Yeah, oh man. It's I certainly don't have the stamina I had 10 years ago. So I hope to heck I'm wiser. I mean, I think I'd like to think I am, but one of the things that I've really been trying to be very conscious of is, and I'm not consistently good at doing this, be very transparent about it, is at Brooklyn Data, I jumped into every Slack conversation, like, every topic. I was like, every problem I would jump in and solve. And I think it's because, like, I knew the most because I was there since day one. I was working the most hours. I had, maybe the most skin in the game. And that it helped us move fast. Like, we'd get to a decision fast. I would jump in, make a decision, move on. What also happened, however, side effect is the organization did not develop the muscle to make decisions without me. And really noticed that as the organization got longer, when I couldn't be there in every conversation, or maybe I was still trying to or attempting to, that the kind of autonomy, the decision making muscle had not developed in the organization, and I had kind of put myself as like this this kind of, you know, critical link, maybe just let's call a spade, a bottleneck into things.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to be very conscious to, you know, let a Slack conversation go. Like it's the temptation is always there to jump in, and what I'll actually do is I will also often bookmark a conversation and have it
Mm.
and my playbook now is when I see a thread that normally I would have jumped into, I will um right click it, and I will select to get notified about replies. So, you know, even though I'm not mentioned, I'll get the replies. And then I will set a reminder to come back in 3 hours to see if it was replied to. And it actually ends up being in the short term more work. But
Mm.
I think in the long term, um, it's been really cool to see the team, you know, it's not like the Brooklyn data team wasn't capable of doing that, but I just like, I never gave them a chance. And so I'm really trying to be thoughtful and just not, you know, not falling into that same trap and letting the org build that muscle. And it's been really great to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
great
I
hack
can
to be like,
totally
yeah.
resonate with that because as a founder, you're building like three things, right? The product, the business, and the organization. And
Yeah.
then like organization is kind of your best leverage, like getting people to have that, well, getting the right people, having the right ways of working to build
Yeah. You got
the
Dory.
product and the business.
You got
Yeah.
your secret weapon.
Yeah. Fluffing. It's
Also
great. I love my
secret.
ego being fluffed right here. It's fantastic.
You know, we should all hype each other this whole call. We'll
Yeah.
start every Monday with this.
Yeah, no,
Amazing.
the vibes are great. Starting off with optimism, because that is not something I associate typically with data. So I'm loving the
What?
vibes from y'all. No, no. For me, I think coming from academia, like that's my
Mm,
background in economics, where a lot of times you're throwing cold water on people and then be like, actually, no, what you thought is not the answer. Or you're just trying to poke holes in arguments. And that's a lot of academics.
you must
A
be real
lot.
fun at a party.
I don't know. Years in the industry have helped
Okay, good.
significantly.
Okay, so I want to segue a little bit, like in between data and AI, right? So first,
Mhm.
I guess, like, what are your thoughts about like data democratization? Like, did that actually happen, or like, are we waiting for AI to make it happen? As we talk about like storytelling and then all that AI can do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I would say that I've never been the biggest fan of everybody in an organization should know SQL. Like, I mean, that's never been kind of like, I feel like you put something in the primary query versus a CTE, you could change the answer pretty dramatically. And like, you know, SQL itself isn't hard, but some of that kind of nuance of how to structure a SQL query is challenging. And so like I was okay with having a little friction between someone having access to the data because I felt like s- pure, you know, data democracy was going to end up in kind of bad outcomes. I think that, you know, over time I've maybe learned that like I'd rather have people using data more than, and I'm more okay with some of the risk of kind of wrong numbers or outcomes. At least like the better solution is to maybe build relationships with folks so that they know to reach out to the data team if it's a big decision. But like, you know, who am I to stand in the way of someone using data? But I think like we're kind of getting to the point where I may be able to have my cake and eat it too. And specifically, we can do data democracy and have more guardrails of, say, having kind of AI help versus someone having to, you know, write a SQL query from scratch. Like you know, are the AI models perfect now? No. But I think like if I, as a centralized data team, if we can curate the data model well enough and you know give enough context to the AI model to help a semi-technical or non-technical user answer their own question, that's phenomenal. And I think listen, you know, you always have the agency problem. Like, you know, if you're kind of giving, you know, someone else the ability to do something, like there's risk. But I think the risk is becoming more like is minimizing.
Mhm.
And Optimus here. Listen, sometimes you're going to stub your toe, but I mean, like, that's what happens when you're running fast. Like,
Is
What I'm
there
hearing
a
is
stack you like for helping people right now kind of ask those questions? Is there a setup you have or a workflow?
I don't think there's a perfect solution now. Like, I think, you're seeing all the BI tools, integrate AI features in. You're seeing even kind of like, even kind of other players that haven't traditionally been in the data space, like Dagster has Compass. Like, I think we haven't found that perfect solution. And, the question is like, is the is it going to be a BI specific tool, or is it going to be a generalist, you know, AI agent or harness that helps you do this? I don't know what the answer is. We're still in that space, but like um it's really got it's very exciting. Let's just put that there. Like, I don't think any of the solutions are perfect, but it gives me the kind of confidence that in the next 18 to 24 months, we're gonna be in a great spot. But I also like BI tools are sticky, and so people are still using Cognos and other things. And so like it might take many years for this stuff to trickle into to all organizations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Scott, what I'm hearing that what you mentioned about data democracy is maybe it was, or the way we frame it was a means to the end, right? It's like we still want people to be curious and with their agency, like finding answers, but not necessarily with like everyone writing SQL, but now like
Mhm.
having those questions surface and then either very well organized data team or agent system that could answer those questions, right? So is that another form of data democracy, like, or it's like completely different?
I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, I think it's but by the way, I love how you synthesized what I was saying over the course of 5 minutes into something very smart and succinct in like 15 seconds. Like that, what CL said, that's what I should have said. Um I think we're at an interest. Yeah, I think it's just an evolution. It is each new technology, and I mean, let's the modern data stack, the MPP database, the ability to massively analyze data, just like it unlocks you know, a cool new superpower.
Mm.
Because all of these technologies, they're not robots replacing us. They're exoskeletons that make us better, faster, stronger. And so this is just like the latest, greatest exoskeleton that kind of magnifies the innate human ability. How I feel that sounds. You should summarize that. See how that was good.
I totally feel that, like, personally, like, I feel it's like almost like 20 years ago, I'm like coding every day, is like playing with all this thing and like build random stuff. So, totally exoskeleton.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess that kind of give us this segue to like, how do you see like AI really reshaping the role of like data engineer or a data team in general?
Yeah, it's the exoskeleton. It's you know, like all organizations and all kind of knowledge workers, you're going to be expected to do more. And I don't think it's I don't think
Parkinson's
it's
law.
I don't think it's replacing people's jobs. So like, I don't know. I always like to make kind of like metaphors that like I have no experience in and don't even know the right, but I'll make this one. I'd like to think like a stockbroker or a stock analyst like in the 50s was covering like 5 stocks. And then, in the 70s it was 20 stocks and then 50 stocks. And now it's maybe 200 stocks. Like with AI, you have to cover 10,000 stocks. And I think it's just going to be the exact same thing where, any knowledge worker, and data is an example of a knowledge worker, you're just like, you're going to be expected to do a lot more. And so, we have a data team at Kilo of one, and Pedro, I used to work with him at Brooklyn Data, crushes it, one man army. And he
Hmm.
does more than a team of 3 or 4, would have, a few years ago. And yes, Pedro, if you're listening, you're amazing. But I also think it's because he embraces the technology. He embraces,
Hmm.
he uses Kilo to write all the, Kilo plus the dbt mcp server, and he's cruising. I mean, I think that's just what the role is going to be. And I even see that, we have a philosophy within Kilo of, it's maybe sound bad, like we're very anti collaboration. And it's funny, Dory, I saw you had a post hog mug, and I think that's like, I give a lot of credit to the post hog folks. They had a great blog post about this. We have one developer, one marketer, one data person own a feature end to end. They can collaborate with other team members, of course, if they need it. Like, it's not like you can't talk with anybody. But I think too often humans use collaboration as like a safety blanket. Like, we need to have a check-in meeting, or you need to look at my code, or let me put this document on my methodology out there for 2 weeks and get feedback. At Kilo, we just move fast. It's a team member plus a team of agents. Just, that's the unit. And so we have team members like Suresh owns code reviews, develop that end to end from conception to production, the Kilo feature. Pedro owns our data stack end to end. We don't need 5 Pedros. We have a team of 5. It's just Pedro plus 4 agents. And that's kind of how we operate. And we see kind of teams, high performing teams starting to operate.
So what I'm hearing is like autonomous, like single focus, like because now experienced team member can work with agents, and that essentially is the whole team, and then
Yeah.
they're kind of collaborating with the agent more than kind of their peers, as you set that boundary, and then but of course you still encourage that if necessary, right?
Yeah. The team still exists, but it's not 5 humans. It's 1 human and 4 agents.
Yeah. The end-to-end data person. Been
Mhm.
seeing that a lot. Like the threads on Reddit and people talking about on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
job postings. I think you're seeing that a lot more, kind of the full stack that can do everything. The data analyst, the analytics engineer, and the data engineer,
Yeah.
and just roll with that all the way through. Yeah.
100%. I mean, it's the full stack data person. I think we've really embraced it, and just I think the pace that, I mean, Pedro joined, I think, right before Christmas. And so he's, what, 2.5, 2 months in, something like that. Like, um, we have a full data stack. I mean, it's just, and he's just ripping through, kind of answering people's questions, but also adding kind of big incremental features to the data stack constantly. It's just, it's, and I see this even as like a CEO at Kilo, just deciding what we do next, what we build next. The calculus has changed so much because you can do it so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You can go from, we want to build a feature to it being done in a week. We can go from having like, we want to ingest these 3 data sources and be reporting on it, to it being done in 2 days. The speed it's just kind of, pretty wild. And that feels magical.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. It's like all this kind of like if you get that right, I believe Kilo is doing like I recall Kilo is like forked from like Ruko, right? I played with the earlier version of that, like I guess about a year ago, and it's like things has changed so much.
Yeah, checks. I mean, we launched over this past summer. So as a company, we started in March, and the product launched over the summer. And so we're less than a year old as a company, and well less than a year old as a feature. I mean, like, yeah, we're a superset of Klein and Rue, but we've built a lot of really cool features. Check it out. What would have changed since you first experienced Kilo was, initially was a VS Code extension,
Mm-hmm.
and just a really good VS Code extension. Now we've built the end-to-end agentic engineering platform. So you can do VS Code, CLI,
Mm-hmm.
JetBrains, App Builder, which is kind of like Lovable, code reviews, Kilo for Slack, parallel agents. So you can operate multiple agents at the same time. It's pretty wild because we have this, I guess, the saying at Kilo, which is called Kilo speed, which is just when you're just flying. I mean, it's like when you're just like, I know everything's going right. The luck is on your side. The winds are in the right direction. The technology is working, and I think that's what we aspire to be operating at all times. Is Kilo speed. All those features that I just described, they've been built in the last few months. I mean, in most companies, that would be a 6 to 12 to maybe 18-month roadmap. I
Yep.
mean, we're ripping through features every day, and it's just like that's what happens when you get a really great full stack, individual, and you wrap them in an AI exoskeleton, and
Yeah.
kind of that's what we're building here at Kilo is that kind of awesome AI exoskeleton. So I guess meta, we're using the Kilo engineers are using Kilo to build Kilo every day, and it's pretty magical to watch.
Yeah. And the
And
best type
then
of dog fooding too.
Exactly. And a lot of our features came out that way. Like parallel agents was just came from it's like, oh shoot, I have to run one agent at a time. Like that's the bottleneck. And so, okay, cool, let's build the infrastructure to run multiple agents. Yeah, I mean it's when you are your kind of your target customer, it's great. But also we have the kind of the structure where all of our engineers who own the products actually engage directly with the customers. There's no, we have a customer support team, but there's no kind of layer in between.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
in Suresh, who owns code reviews, is interfacing directly with all the customers, the users, to get feedback to make code reviews better every single day. And speak of magical moments, like our users are really kind of blown away by they give it feedback, and like by end of the day it's in production. It's like, hey, by the way, can you reload grab download the latest version of the extension, the fix is in there, and they're just like mind blown because they've never seen the pace of rapid iteration that we're doing.
Wow, I can see this is kind of like the future of how things will work.
Hmm.
Uh, have you run into any although you said this is an anti-collaboration, but this is still kind of like you're shipping things like different features, right? And then so have you run into like new problems like this way that things that got conflict or like the features incompatible? Like, what are kind of the learnings there?
Yeah, and so what we'll say is a human reviews every PR before it goes out. I mean, it's an AI assisted review, but we are not YOLOing code straight into our code base. And like we made it very clear from day one that you are accountable for any code that you commit, regardless of whether you physically typed in the kind of the characters yourself, or you used AI to generate them.
Hmm.
You're accountable. Um, but what we found is really interesting is there's always like this one person that maybe everybody had do the code review. And what we've uh, what we've done is we've used AI to automate, I would say 95% of our code reviews. And so we're kind of we're kind of getting to a point where in some ways AI is better. And I guess what I mean is as code bases get more and more complex, what's more likely to catch a conflict or an error? The person that's, been there 10 years and has the I guess all that hard earned knowledge of the code base and the why this happened, or the AI agent that is parsing every single line of code and kind of, interrogating it all from every single angle to see if there are conflicts. I think the human is still going to, win every once in a while. It's just going to, find out this is something the AI hasn't. But the models are getting so good
Hmm.
that it's getting to the point where AI is actually better. And what you're starting to see is kind of by having a number of checks. So as I'm a developer, I'm checking periodically to do a local code review. We launched local code reviews on Kilo, I think 2 weeks ago. And then I push it live push it to make a PR. And then there's another automated code review. And then what we're also working on is our security reviewer and kind of more proactive reviews that are just kind of continuing to look for issues autonomously. And so I think having that kind of multiple levels
Hmm.
of automated checks, listen, they're exoskeletons. Again, they're not going to replace a human, but they're kind of adding a lot of value, and in some cases surpassing what a human could do on their own, and allowing us to move at kilo speed and to give autonomy because we know that AI is going to be looking for broader conflicts in the system.
Wow. Okay. So like all this exoskeleton enabling teams to move at kill speed, and then what are some of this like learning you got from this that you can give advice to like data teams to move at kill speed as well?
Yeah, I think a few learnings were we've gotten to a point where actually code is cheap. Like writing code is actually quite fast. And then you look at what are the other bottlenecks in an organization. It is often all the bureaucracy, all the kind of unnecessary decision gates, all the kind of comfort blankets that we put in as a society and as an organization to make people feel comfortable making a decision and moving forward. What we've done is we've tried to like ruthlessly hunt those down and get rid of them. And so, when you join at Kilo, your first day isn't like let's tour the office and meet people. It's like you're expected to have code
A
shipped
PR,
by the end of day, and
right?
you're expected to have a fully working MVP feature by the end of the week, and it's expected to be in prod the next week. There is no, it's no kind of warm up period, and what you kind of see this kind of journey that an engineer goes like. At first, they're like this like intimidation, and then it's like a can I really, like it's like, then it's a validation, and then once you're like, yeah, go write some code, then it's just like you see them fly. I mean, it's I think nobody wants to be getting permission all the time. Listen, yes, they should know that they can ask a question. Like you're always allowed to ask a question, but also we've got a out of the box specialist agent called Ask that you can ask right at Kilo and ask the code base. And so you don't even have to ask a human. You don't have to wait for someone to respond. You just go. And so once you I love seeing this like kind of light that kind of goes in someone's eyes when they realize like, wow, actually I can do this. And our developers at Kilo aren't working 24 hours a day. They're not working 7 days a week. They're just really productive because they're using agents and we're not making them ask for permission and check in every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, should all the data team do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think data team members have always been quite autonomous. Like, I think we've just had to do it just by the nature of just having to be scrappy and get things together. But I think yes is the answer, that like we need to just take that autonomy to the next level and just ship. Um, and I think data team members have always been, I guess maybe not always, the trend that I've seen in my data experience is we've always been just a couple years behind the engineers in adapting some of the kind of Git modern engineering kind of software development lifecycle. I think the data team can't afford to be 2 years behind. Needs to be You need to be using AI to generate the code. You need to be using AI to help you do the analysis. Like you need to get that exoskeleton going now. And so yeah, CL, to answer your question, it's like yes, we need to be making kind of full stack data folks that can move faster and use their exoskeletons.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so a couple more questions before we go
Sure.
into our lightning rounds. I guess you're
Ooh.
like a frontier of like all this coding agent thing. I think this is amazing. But like fast forward, like I don't want to say 5 years, maybe just 1 year. What's going to feel like really like laughably like outdated about like how we do things, especially with data or like the coding or the way that we operate today?
Yeah, I think, you're going to see a big shift to longer and longer and more complicated, like longer autonomous agentic workloads, tackling more and more complex tasks. And so, you know, maybe right now you're letting an agent run for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Like, you're going to let an agent run for hours. You're going to let them, give it a mission of doing your entire data stack migration, giving it requirements, actually even having it define its own requirements, its own testing and acceptance criteria, and then just running at it. And not just one agent, but multiple agents in parallel. And I think that's, the kind of I guess maybe sequential or hands-on nature that we're currently using to manage agents. I think that's going to feel a bit dated. And this data person, the data person, the developer, heck, any knowledge worker, their job is going to be kicking off long running autonomous agentic workloads, having those agentic workloads actually flag the human when they have like need a decision or an input, or they're done with the process or have detected something. The human's going to take it down to whatever interface. It's going to VS Code, CLI, some sort of kind of chat interface, whatever they're most comfortable, whatever is most appropriate for the task, and then kick it back up. And it's just going to be, that's going to be the world of every single knowledge worker.
What's the most painful bug or failure that you've seen in production, and what did you learn from it?
I mean, what's really interesting about data, and I maybe you can, maybe this is too much of a non-answer, but I think what I found with data is there was a comedian that once said, like, when an escalator breaks, it just becomes stairs. I mean, it's different, but it's still useful. Like, when your data workload fails, it's just often results in stale data. And I think that's like the thing that I've learned is it's kind of just manage expectations. Like, I guess in the data space, yes, there are some things that can go wrong. And don't get me wrong, you should have tests and things like that. But understanding the difference between a real error and, hey, the pipeline didn't run, so the data is 3 hours old instead of 1 hour old. And I think it's just understanding the I guess the criticality, the severity of an issue is what kind of taught me. Because again, I used to, early in my career, panic. Okay, that didn't run. It's like, but what's the real impact? The data's 2 hours old. I think we'll be okay.
Okay, so separating the failure mode for like different levels of expectation, right?
See, as always, you summarize it much better than I said. Exactly, I totally agree. What you said.
All right, Scott, this has been so fun, and let's get into the lightning rounds. It's like just real quick questions and a short answer. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, first programming language you loved or hated?
I'm sticking to my guns. Excel. Yeah, I'll be the first one that said that. Uh-huh.
All right. Your go-to data set for testing like new tool or the new methodology or whatever things.
Ooh, I mean, I like just some census data or something like that.
Census?
Something pretty accessible and understandable.
Okay. What's one lesson from outside of tech that influenced how you build?
I think just my early days in consulting really taught me, I guess, to the importance of a job well done, like, of quality
Mm-hmm.
and just, the pursuit of excellence. I think, like, we were helping customers try to, like our clients try to make real important decisions. And I think just the hunting for a really great answer and the commitment to doing great quality work is a lesson that has always stayed with me.
Okay. Uh,
All right.
okay. So
What is your favorite podcast or book that's not about data?
Ooh. What's interesting, I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Like, I'm about data. Like, I feel like I've spent so much time in the data space. I've always listened to The Economist.
Mm,
The audio version of every issue. I feel like great kind of source of information on what's going on in the world, which even in your day to day as a data person is tremendously helpful.
yeah, yeah. No arguments for me there. And then final question, tabs or spaces?
Ooh. It's okay. It kind of depends on the language, but I would say
I'm also a tabs person. We have
I
not had
thought
many tabs people on the
I thought you were, Dory.
yeah, the shortcuts. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott. This has been an absolute pleasure.
no.
It's been a
Before
lot of
that,
fun.
Scott, where can listeners find you and be helpful to you?
Yeah, I mean, find me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm one of those cool kids that's my primary social network. So, like, I'm on Twitter as well. But, just search me on LinkedIn, add me, or I'm Scott at KiloCode.ai.
Right. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Scott.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
folks.
Stay for a bit.